This is against the axes of effectiveness and safety. And one of the things we've consistently seen around the world, I don't think we've ever seen two countries that are exactly the same on the confidence spectrum. Highly diverse. And we've really seen in the last decade is that people's sentiments around vaccines have become far more volatile. We've also seen a trend where, in a Likert scale of strongly agree to strongly disagree, there's been a migration to the increased polarization. Not everywhere, but we can see a trend where they're strongly agreeing or strongly disagreeing, and that's particularly in the last few years. Most of the time, when a country drops in confidence or is low in confidence, there's been some event. So with the confidence index, we're kind of getting a bird's eye view of trends, and we've got our eye on the horizon, in a sense, a risk assessment. If we see a drop, then we go in with a more deep dive local subnational study or sometimes a combination of some qualitative research. In Japan, for instance, this was really one of the big drivers was an hesitation, anxiety around the HPV vaccine. The government has stopped proactive recommendation of the vaccine since 8 years ago now. You can come get it if you demand it. It's given for free by the government, but they're not proactively recommending it. So that's been a real hit to public confidence. From 76% acceptance, it's dropped to 0.03%. One of the things, again, we've seen particularly around COVID with the changing epidemic environment is that confidence is as volatile as the epidemic itself. There was a higher confidence in reported willingness to take a vaccine. It was higher back in June than it was in September or October, and then again started to climb a bit towards the end of the year. One with the announcement of a really high effectiveness announcement, the Pfizer vaccine, which kind of signaled some hope, but also with this very serious second wave.
All done.
Here again, we've seen a very strong correlation across all the socioeconomic demographic variables that we also collect in correlating them with the positive and negative sentiments. The strongest correlate of willingness to take a COVID vaccine has been if someone feels that the government is handling the response well, they're far more likely to be willing to take a COVID vaccine. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but does it really have an impact on people's vaccine intent and acceptance? So we did a control trial with 8,000 people, 4,000 in the US, 4,000 in the UK, nationally representative sample, and in each country gave 1,000 of them, exposed 1,000 of them to factual scientific information about these vaccines, and for 3,000 in each country exposed them to 5 of the most frequently circulating pieces of misinformation that were there was wide awareness about. Before exposure, 54% in the UK said they would definitely take the vaccine, 41.2% in the US. After exposure, for those exposed to the misinformation, in the UK, there was a 6.4 percentage point drop. That's pretty significant. It's less significant if you've got 85% acceptance or even 80% acceptance, but when you're already hovering below herd immunity, even a few points matter. In the US, the drop was less, but the bar started lower. What was one of the interesting things we found in this study was in those 5 different pieces of misinformation, we often say the misinformation is anti-science. I don't think most of the people who propagate misinformation, they resent that because they claim they want better science. But the one misinformation piece that looked more science-y was the one that had the most impact in changing their mind about willingness to take a vaccine. And that was the one that's circulating about the mRNA vaccine affecting people's DNA. It looked like a picture out of a genomics textbook, but the interpretation on the bottom was, first they were feeding us GMO and now they're turning us into GMH, genetically modified humans. But at a glance, it looked pretty credible as a diagram, as a figure.